In today's video, we've got some news and updates to take a look at here today involving the former second overall pick on the New York Rangers, Kaapo Kakko, and a potential trade slash move that we could possibly see happen or go down at some point throughout this offseason. So we'll take a look at that and more in this video, kind of what a package could look like for him, teams' interest that could be kind of wanting to trade for him, as well as an article or two here in this video. So starting off here, honestly, I think it's obvious here that Kaapo Kakko has not lived up to the expectations of a second overall pick. Going into that draft year there back in 2019, this was obviously a player who was quite hyped up there for a while there. There were a lot of people kind of talking about whether or not it should be Kaapo Kakko or Jack Hughes going first overall there, and even down to the last day as well, that draft day. There were still some people who kind of thought, Kakko could go first overall there. He's definitely leaning more towards a guy like Jack Hughes there, but pretty much that entire season there of 2018-2019, there were a lot of people that kind of thought Kakko could definitely go first overall, especially after that phenomenal World Championship run that he had with Team Finland there. And with Kakko still only being 23 years old, it is possible that maybe, for this development going forward, what's best is possibly getting traded away there, getting a change of scenery, maybe getting a bigger role on a more of a retooling slash rebuilding team, possibly on a second line somewhere, as with the Rangers, he's probably more in a third line kind of a role. But I do think that there's definitely still a chance he could stay with the Rangers this upcoming season here and have a possible breakout season where he puts up, 45, 50, 55 points, something like that possibly. I mean, is it likely to happen? Probably not, but it's definitely a possibility there where we could see him kind of bounce back and get towards more of that production that they had back in 2022, 2023. Just a season or two ago, he ended up having a pretty good season there, putting up 40 points in 82 games played that season back in 2022, 2023 as a 21-year-old that season is not too bad at all. They're 18 goals, 22 assists, not bad. So it is possible he can get back to that, but in a third line kind of role there with kind of limited ice time, he did have 2 less minutes per game there. Didn't play overall, the best hockey. So maybe getting a move there, obviously getting to change the scenery there could be what's best for his development, but it definitely could happen where he takes that step up and gets back into form there with the Rangers as well this upcoming season. But if the Rangers feel that Kaapo Kakko cannot take that big step in his development like a guy like Alexis Lafreniere did this past season, maybe they do look to trade him away, which we have seen some reports kind of talk about, as from the Hockey News there, they say, per Vince Bercagliano of Lowhud, the Rangers are shopping Kakko but haven't been thrilled with the trade offers they've received, and I'm sure they're asking for quite a bit right now. I'm sure it's a pretty high price for the former second overall pick, who is still only 23 years old, who had a 40-point season with pretty much getting all of his points at even strength as well, just a season or two ago as well, back in 2022, 2023. So, still a young player who has a 40-point season under his belt there. I'm sure he still has decent value on the trade market, but like I said, right now, the Rangers are probably asking for a little too much from what other teams are looking to offer for a guy who definitely had a pretty big down season this past year, back in 2023, 2024. So we'll have to wait and see kind of what happens there, whether or not he actually does get traded away. And I'm sure if he does, the Rangers might have to come down a bit on their asking price. But taking a look here at another kind of article of the Hockey News there, they say, according to the reports, the New York Rangers are, quote, dangling former second overall pick Kaapo Kakko in trade rumors. If the San Jose Sharks are interested, there are pros and cons to acquiring the winger. And that makes a lot of sense. They're obviously, I'm sure, a team like San Jose who seems to have a pretty good relationship there with the Rangers. So there definitely could be a deal kind of coming possibly in place at some point throughout this offseason where Kakko gets traded over to the San Jose Sharks there. And we see a piece like possibly Mario Ferraro potentially come back in a deal there. Maybe that has to be a piece or two on either side. But Mario Ferraro makes a lot of sense here for the Rangers. He's a left-handed defenseman, 6 foot, only 25 years old, turning 26 in September. He's still fairly young, has 2 more years left with a cap hit per season of $3.25 million, so not too bad. They're not crazy expensive and definitely can fit under the Rangers cap situation right now, which isn't looking too bad. Obviously, haven't made those big moves for agencies, so maybe this is one of the big pieces that could be acquired this offseason to really kind of help bolster that decor. And he also is a very, tough player as well. Not too bad there, blocks a ton of shots, but also plays a very physical game, as in 5 seasons at the NHL level, his lowest hit total in a single season is 120 hits. I think that's pretty good there. A very physical guy, blocks a lot of shots, and definitely could be a nice addition to this New York Rangers decor. Doesn't put up a ton of points there, but a solid, more defensive defenseman who could be a very nice add to this Rangers team. And it is just speculation that the Rangers obviously would want to go after a guy like Mario Ferraro in a deal like this, but I think it makes a lot of sense for both sides there. Mike Greer and the San Jose Sharks, they get a nice young forward. Rangers get a fairly young defenseman back in return. Both guys are still, Kakko's going to be an RFA once he obviously expires next offseason. A guy like Mario Ferraro still has 2 more years left on his deal, so it can work out for both sides there. 2 kind of team-controlled, fairly young players, and they're kind of mid-20s or so. Obviously Mario's a little older, but still, I think this could be a good deal for both sides. I mean, there to be a pick or two going either way, but I think this could be a kind of nice, base for a package to happen for both teams here, going to help out both sides and really kind of help bolster this New York Rangers decor. But taking a look at another piece from the Hockey News article, they say if the Sharks and general manager Mike Greer are interested in acquiring Kakko for a fresh start, which would make a lot of sense, it certainly seems like the price isn't cheap. While it won't be particularly expensive, Rangers GM Chris Drury won't give him away for nothing. New York Post Larry Brooks agrees with that way of thinking, and it makes sense there. I mean, obviously the Rangers and Chris Drury are not going to look to sell him off for like a 5th round pick and that's it, right? He's still 23 years old, has a 40-point season, still young, former 2nd overall pick. You're going to try and milk as much value out of Kakko as you can, so you're not going to kind of trade him away for very, very low. Although he is off a disappointing season, you're still not going to give him away for super cheap because he is still young, fairly talented NHL forward. He can play a solid 2-way game, put up a decent amount of points there. Definitely has some improving to do, but is still a decent player, and a fresh start could definitely be a big thing for him. And he's also, once he expires next offseason, is an RFA with arbitration eligibility. So it's not like he's going to be a UFA where you may have to pay him a little overpriced there to kind of keep him. He's still an RFA. He's still under team control for at least another couple of years. So that is nice for a team like San Jose there, who are still a more rebuilding/retooling team at this point. They're obviously a team coming off of a 1st overall pick there with Macklin Celebrini. And although they may not be a team kind of fighting for an actual playoff spot this upcoming season, in 2025, 2026, not this season coming up, but the next one, I'm sure they're going to want to be a true kind of playoff threat there to kind of make it. So they're going to be a team looking at some talent there, and a guy like Kakko is definitely not going to make their team worse if he's in a middle 6 role, which I'm sure they could acquire him and possibly get him on that 2nd or 3rd line there, provide some solid kind of 2-way game on that wing there, while bringing a decent amount of offense there as well. Could be a nice fit for a young team like the San Jose Sharks. They're kind of in that rebuilding/retooling mode. And there are definitely some pros and cons of trading him away. I mean, getting some decent value back before he possibly has another kind of, not great season where his value drops off even more. Him being 24 years old next season and him coming off a even worse possible year than this year or just about the same would obviously drop his value by quite a bit. So that would be kind of unfortunate to kind of not get any assets or, a pick or prospect or young guy back in return for him like you could possibly do so right now. So it's kind of interesting kind of what would happen here this offseason if he does get moved. What could we get back, and is it worth it to actually do so? And that's kind of the question there. Can you get a 2nd round pick, which is maybe like more of a kind of later 2nd possibly, or a 3rd and 4th round pick, maybe conditions on there, or maybe it is a 4th and a prospect, or a 3rd and a prospect, maybe it is a guy like Mario Ferraro coming back. That's the question mark here. What can Rangers truly get back in return there? Obviously, the asking price seems like it's quite high right now, but maybe they come down a bit there and still are able to get a guy like Mario Ferraro, maybe throw on like a 5th round pick in the future as well, which is a possibility to get a guy like that who could really kind of help out this team for not only this season, but also in the future possibly as well. Who's still a guy in his mid-20s there, hits a lot, blocks a lot of shots, and could be a nice add on that 3rd D-pair spot. And if the Rangers did trade away Kakko with the moves that we've seen so far, if there's no other kind of big winger moves this offseason, it definitely opens up a spot for a guy like Brendan Othmann to pretty much have a guaranteed spot on this roster, which I hope he does. I hope he gets a spot in this team for this upcoming season. I think he is NHL ready. A guy like Brett Berard, I think, is as well, but do they want to have kind of 2 rookies on that 3rd line together? I'm not quite sure. So maybe they would go with a guy like maybe Brendan Othmann on that 2nd line there alongside Crichton Zibanejad. You trade away Kakko, you have Riley Smith there on that 3rd line right wing spot. On the left side there, you could have a guy like Brett Berard. Moving down Will Cooley to the 4th line possibly, or have Brett Berard on the 4th line, which I wouldn't love. I think he'd be more suited in a kind of 3rd line role possibly, but there are a lot of different options you could do, and trading away a guy like Kakko would definitely open up a spot for one of the young kind of guys on this Rangers team in the prospect pool right now. Guys like Adam Edstrom, obviously Brendan Othmann, Brett Berard, it kind of help give a spot for one of those guys, which I definitely think some of those guys are deserving of getting a spot this upcoming season. Anyways, though, if you are a New York Rangers fan, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. It helps with the channel a ton. I would really appreciate it. And also, I post every single day, so if you're a Rangers fan, there's no better place to be on YouTube than this channel. Hit that subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. And also don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on the Rangers possibly trading away the former second overall pick, Kaapo Kakko.